BTCInvestor.com's Daily Brief. The answer to your question is learn the goddamn process, trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Actually, I think this might be one of our last public daily briefings that we will do for you. So if you're enjoying the conversations that we do on a regular basis, maybe consider hopping over and joining us Monday to Friday on the site. I think we're still going to continue doing but I think what we're going to do is like sort of special videos that are instead of live. And then that way, if I understand correctly, even if you do like a live broadcast, but then repost it on YouTube as an actual recorded video, it actually gets quite a bit more traction. So I think that's the direction I think we're thinking about going here. In the coming weeks and months ahead, I think you guys are all well aware of that. I think I've been sort of telegraphing this for a little while. You guys actually got a really nice treat. I think Julian gave you, I think, like 45 minutes or something like that yesterday on the free broadcast. So, yeah, hopefully you can see what we do Monday to Friday. I do, if I'm not mistaken, our CTO got into a little bit of hot water there by showing one of his country's Olympic athletes doing really well. And what a crock of shit this stupid economy and society is now that these corporations now have hijacked things like the Olympics, so we can't even share the successes of our fellow countrymen online, or it hits copyright infringement. Stupid NBC. And I suppose, if you want to blame anybody, I think you have to blame the Americans for the corruption of the interneting. When it first came out, man, it was such a, I remember when the internet first came out and we could get price charts online, man, the brokers around the office, I was showing them the charts I was getting online for free and they just nearly fell off their chairs. Quote.com. I don't know whether you guys remember Quote.com. That was from forever ago. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. The point is I asked Chris to edit out the part that YouTube banned our video with our CTO's conversation there the other day. I think, Chris, I think you said you were able to do that, right? I don't know whether he's here or not, but
Yep, it's posted in the members lounge as well as
right.
the TRI dashboard site. Yep.
All right, thank you, sir. So we do have that video. I know a number of people on the site were like, "Oh crap! I totally wanted to hear TRI's CTO," and I'm going to refrain from directly saying his name going forward because unfortunately, I have to worry about this screwed up, just mess of a society. And of course, he's got family and stuff he needs to worry about. So we're going to refrain from using his name directly going forward, which I think is probably a good idea. You want to come and whack somebody? Whack the Beamish. The Beamish is ready to go. In fact, actually, the Beamish is going on vacation here for the next couple of weeks. So I'm not even quite sure what the team's got in store for you on the site, but we'll leave it up to the team. Hopefully, they'll keep you well informed while I'm thinking about actually just hopping in the car, throwing my tent and sleeping bag in the car and just doing sort of a West Coast adventure and just crashing at campsites all the way down the coast because the weather's pretty good. And the Sacramento people said they wanted me there. So anyway, kind of not really topic specific content here for you. As you can see on our little summary piece that I've asked to have here on these videos, of course, that'll go away here, I suppose, going forward. But there's pretty much almost no news econ-wise today. And really not a hell of a lot actually going on in the world other than, as you can see, This is beautiful. This is so poetic. I mean, you couldn't have a better poetic end to all of this nonsense. Wouldn't it be great if you actually find out that Zelensky now is actually going to become the czar of Russia? God, that would be awesome. Because if I understand correctly, the Ukrainians have punched through the Russians' lines. Uh, and Vladdy's like desperately calling the Wagner group to come back from Africa. And keep in mind, they just got their asses kicked in Africa. So a whole bunch of hardened Ukrainians who've literally, been fighting and dying day in, day out. They would love to stick it to these Wagner dickheads. Um, but if I understand correctly, the Ukrainians broke through the Russians' lines, and there's like no defense. Why? Because Vladdy's gone and wasted his entire fighting force, in Bakhmut and at Divka and stuff like that, and these meat waves, and just completely irresponsible. I mean, the guy's an idiot. It would be just so perfectly poetically justice if the Ukrainians actually were right on Moscow's doorstep. Laddie, we'd like to have a conversation with you, sir. That would be great. And what an interesting twist of fate, eh? Because Vladdy was basically standing there going, Mr. Zelensky, I'm going to murder you. And now, wouldn't it be beautiful if there was some sort of public hanging of Vladdy and Zelensky was the hangman? God, that would just be perfect. Wow, what a twist of fate. You can't write better fiction than reality. I'll tell you that much, by crackers. So I think that's one of the big sort of news things going on that really caught my attention, but it's not really market related. And if anything, kind of noticed that, we are now officially here in what they call the summer doldrums. And, not a bad time to take a vacation if you can. And I did notice that, we went into a little bit of free fall there because of Japan recently, but ironically enough, the Japanese themselves came out and said, no, 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 we're just kidding. We're just kidding. We're not going to be serious about this. We got to take our orders from the masters over there, Rothschilds and U.S. hegemony and princes of Japan, all that bullshit, right? And so they just did a complete 180. And now, oh, everything's fine. Head fake, psych, suckers. Anybody who panics sold. Oh God. Can't I was joking with somebody this morning. I mean, it's stunning how brutal capitalism now. It's so corrupt and it's so evil, and I think its name is Aladdin. Just pure evil. So anyway, welcome to the frivolity. Sure hope you're ready for the 21st century. I told somebody else this morning I would not be surprised that within 20 years, 30 years, we're probably going to have debtors' prisons back. We're heading back to Dickinsonian capitalism. The days of Scrooge are fast approaching again. More times they change, the more everything stays exactly the same. Anyway, as you can see from our little infographic, not really a hell of a lot to talk to you guys about here today. So if anything, a perfect day for me to sort of head off into the sunset. You want to, I mean, as I said, I love this Ukrainian. What a perfect end to all of this. If Ukraine could just punch right through to Moscow and just murder that guy, that would just be perfect. Anyway, I probably shouldn't talk like that on YouTube, get myself into trouble. Trump and Harris, I think, are planning a debate finally in September. So you probably again have the rest of August where really not a hell of a lot happens on the political front. I would just simply say, just let Harris open her mouth and just let her talk. And my hunch is she's going to say something that Trump's going to be like, oh, really? Okay, well, let's explore that a little bit more. Anyway, we'll see what happens. I know some, obviously, the left-leaning media and 1% and all them. I notice on these news feeds and stuff, anytime they can possibly diss Trump, they throw a jab in there. I thought this was interesting. NPR, I mean, the bastion of left-wing socialism, I suppose. Trump holds a rambling news conference while Harris and Waltz are totally awesome. you know, so just get ready for that. Probably say, the question really is going to be is do the left actually cook this election here in November? It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't. Um, anyway, was interesting to see on the econ front. Like I said, just not much news here today, but it was interesting to see China actually not really earth shattering. They said the market lost two what 2,800 jobs there recently. What I did notice though is it kind of looks like it's a shift from part-time jobs got nixed, but a lot of full-time jobs actually were added. So in a weird sort of way, this actually, believe it or not, I actually think is a relatively good thing. You don't want your society to be completely dominated by part-time jobs. Those just don't make people feel very good. One thing, though, I will say that's a little bit concerning, although it did tick down here. Year over year wage increases in Canada, 5.2%. I mean, we still have a major problem with inflation here. And what's really pathetic, and it just goes to show how this is why you Americans should actually be somewhat happy that there is a disconnect between the US Federal Reserve Board and the US government. Because in my country, there is no distinction. In fact, they even say that the finance minister of Canada owns one share of the Bank of Canada, and that's it. I mean, there are no other shares. I would completely disagree with that. I think that the whole thing is completely controlled by the banking cartels, Rothschilds, etc. But unfortunately, whenever you have those kind of conversations with the public, it just seems to fall on deaf ears. They just don't want to hear that kind of conversation, which is kind of sad because it's really hard to explain what's actually going on in this world if you have to take out the oligarch, the 1%, the sort of conspiracy tinfoil hat kind of thinking, and try and explain this like, oh, this is just business as usual, when it isn't. I mean, it's absolutely criminal how corrupt all this money is. But anyway, well, what can you do? Anyway, so the point of the matter here is we still have a major problem with inflation, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. But the central bank lowered interest rates because the housing sector is such a massive part of this economy, and the housing sector is starting to break and starting to crumble. And also, too, this is a little education for you if you are even the slightest bit interested. Canadian politics, everywhere outside of Quebec and Ontario is kind of irrelevant in this country when it comes to federal politics, which is, I'm sure everybody in the Maritimes and out west goes, no, it isn't, no, it isn't. But hey, I've my old man was in politics. He was a federal politician, or at least wannabe, I suppose. Um, I've lived in the political system here in Canada for 50 years. I mean, it's brutally obvious how this game goes. And they always say whoever takes Ontario basically wins the government role, federal government job. And of course, the Liberals under this Trudeau doofus, they have eked out wins in Ontario, and that's how they, as a minority government, can actually be running this country, even though nobody in the West voted for any of these idiots. So anyway, the point being that GTA, Greater Toronto Area, the real estate market, I mean, the bubble is ridiculous. I mean, I don't know whether you've ever been to the Greater Toronto Area, but there isn't a hell of a lot to see there. I mean, there's Niagara Falls, I suppose. There's the CN Tower. But other than that, I mean, there isn't a hell of a lot to do in Toronto. But anyway, the condo market there is absolutely just decimated. And of course, all of these idiots that went and bought into this bubble, they all have to refinance now. And there's talk that like literally the mortgage payments are like doubling. So there's one gentleman actually that I like to follow on YouTube, Canadian real estate guy kind of thing. And he's talking about how the Bank of Canada is actually going in and manipulating the long end of the bond market to try and coerce those interest rates down, so all these people that have to refinance don't get absolutely destroyed. Is this actually in the economy's best interest to go in there and manipulate it while we're dealing with inflationary pressures? I mean, at least down in the States, they don't have this massive wage pressure here. And of course, the Americans are not lowering rates, but here we have this massive wage pressure and they're lowering interest rates. Hello. The inflation problem in China is not going anywhere, and it's not going away. And basically, the purchasing power standard of living of a typical Canadian is being sacrificed to make sure that that housing industry and all those construction people are all well and good. And the funny thing is if you've oversupplied a market anyway, is it really healthy to keep the bubble going? I mean, burst the damn bubble. Let's get back to basics. Let's clean up these balance sheets. The housing prices are way too high. Typical Canadian can't afford a house. And the only reason why the prices are like that is because of this speculative bubble. So it's probably in the society's best interest to get this problem dealt with sooner rather than later. But unfortunately, that doesn't buy political votes in this day and age. It's really sad. But anyway, all right. So you can put away the little infographic. I mean, I suppose. We should also mention that the Taylor Swift, which I do find kind of amusing. Taylor Swift, they've actually said that there is an economic effect to countries and societies as she moves around the world doing these concerts. And the latest concert in Vienna was canceled due to the threat of terrorist activity. They were planning on pipe bombs and stabbing events, since, of course, you're not allowed to own guns anymore in this world, except if you're in the United States. And I'm sure if the left-wing politicians get elected, they'll try really hard to get the guns out of the Americans' hands. And of course, the Americans, I love my American clientele and friends, and man, you're gonna out of my cold dead hands. You know how it goes. Anyway, I suppose the only other thing to talk to you about today is things like the breadth indicator actually did its job again. And this is where I think the value of this is super insanely valuable. Whether anybody's actually interested in this, I don't know. I definitely think it's worth a subscription if you, as I said, the public broadcast, I think we're going to dial them back down to like once a week. I'll do that Sunday show. So if you do find these kind of signals valuable, talk to you guys recently about how when crypto and things like the country funds and stuff, when these things go heavily oversold like this on the short and medium term, this is a no-brainer. I mean, you want to see value, why I think that this engine is valuable and it's worth subscribing. This image right here is absolutely perfect. And you tell me, as I said, markets went stupidly oversold there. And so what do markets do? Where should we go? Maybe I'll just go back to the front page. These indexes, and is a good sort of look at the entire world very quickly. And what did Japan do, for example, when the market went stupidly oversold? Oh, it only rallied 15% off of the lows. The S&P 500, what did it do off of the lows? Oh, it jumped up about man. Nope, that's not the S&P. US 500. I don't even know what that is. Is that the S&P 500? 5315. I thought that said 53,000. Silly boy. Anyway, we're up a few percent there. Looks like market's a little softer heading into the weekend. But you can definitely see that, the whole damn market just spiked off of those lows. And actually, we had a gentleman that came on he's part of the TRI Secret Options Formula Club, our stock picker club. On Tuesdays, we get together. Again, this is the value of TRI. We have kind of an attitude around TRI, 1+1 = 3. So instead of sort of fighting with each other, what we actually try and do at TRI is work together, which I know is kind of a crazy ass thought. Not trying to undermine each other, but actually trying to help each other try to find good trade ideas. And we always say, right, a good trade is a good trade is a good trade. Anyway, Cole's a really big fan of the cycles and cycle analysis. And this is the decennial report, which is actually a favored report of Warren Buffett. And you can clearly see the decennial report was looking for some sort of tank here into the beginning of August. So really seeing this kind of bounce coming out the other side of this actually is exactly what I would have expected. And then interestingly enough, this is into the eclipse window. The FOMC is planning on meeting next. Oh, what a surprise. Right on that eclipse date. Do you think that's by accident or by design, maybe? And ironically enough, if they take this stock market right back up top, because all of this selling, I think, had everything to do with Japan and absolutely nothing to do with anything that was going on in the US. There are people who are talking about the US economy slowing down, but I still see plenty of data that supports. And you saw China here, the fucking wage increases are like better than 5%. How can you lower interest rates in the face of that and actually be talking about you being a representative of the people? I mean, this is a load of horse shit. And the worst part about it is China, of course, is nothing about the people. The federal government here in my country has basically sacrificed Canadian citizens for the sake of politics and the sake of business as usual and the sake of the oligarchs. I mean, all this military spending that we see in Ukraine and all this kind of stuff. And you got people in your own damn country who are starving to death, right? I mean, the stories go on. Do we want to pull up stories about tent cities and shit like this? And oh, by the way, people were conjecturing the other day, oh no, these immigrants that are coming to your country, they're not shitting out in public. And yet there was a guy, it was literally caught right outside a goddamn convenience store, just pulling down his pants and taking a shit. I mean, what a shithole they've turned this country into. God, disgusting. Yeah, you're freaking working for the people. Yeah, right. Anyway, get used to 21st century capitalism. And also too, and I've said this to you before, so it's just will be just broken record. How can you tell when a politician is lying to you? And it doesn't matter if they're on the right, it doesn't matter if they're on the left. You all know the answer to that. The whole fucking thing is rigged. It's just disgusting. Anyway, while we're muddling our way through this, let's try and take as much money as we can from the market. See if we can go buy our islands in the Caribbean and check out. Because I tell you, the end of this decade, oh boy, you think times are bad? That last little inflation bout that we went through. Oh boy, I haven't seen anything yet. Anyway. So the point of the matter here was breadth indicator was telling us we probably should be looking for some sort of bounce. This indicator works really, really well. And indeed, the whole damn market is bouncing. Supposed to finish off this, and I showed you Japan, I showed you the Americans. You can even see the breadth indicator. Hell, we even got a little bit of a W working there now. So you can see they're coming out of the oversold condition. It feels as though the market wants to work its way higher. And like I said, I think a lot of this actually had everything to do with that Japan. In Japan, they basically just folded like a cheap hooker punched in the gut by a man with spots on his face. Now, if you are a 90s kid, you'll know who said that line. Folded like a cheap hooker, punched in the gut by a fat man with spots on his face. Does anybody remember who that is? Yep, that is reload zone. Very good, BB. Maybe consider joining the education program, and you'll be taught firsthand what reload zones are. And keep in mind, those are just two fibs. There's a bunch of other fibs that we all pay attention to as well. And there's also the venture cap reload zone. So I don't know whether you even know what that is. So maybe join the site, and we can educate you on all the various different fib levels. And actually, I was super impressed yesterday. I gotta show you. I mean, I think that half of this broadcast is just a simple walk through some of the cool material that we've been sharing around the site. So you saw the DC annual report. You saw what that's suggesting. You want to see a really cool study Julian shared with everybody last night on liquidation levels on the corn. And the cool part about this, BB, is that these liquidation levels line up perfectly with fibs. So it just goes to show, trade location is always number one. In fact, actually, that's even the reply that I gave to Julian when after he posted this. Right, we teach at the site. Trade location is always reason number one if you're ever thinking about doing a trade. And he was posting, let's see if I can find it on the site last night. Basically, liquidation levels on things like Bitcoin. I think he also did Ethereum, but if I can just show you the Bitcoin chart here, I thought that was interesting. Where was that? There's ETH. Is that Bitcoin right there? All right, let's see what we got here. So my question was, what do you think the odds are? So these are the big liquidation pools. What do you think the odds are that that level there to that level there, this liquidation level is a reload zone? So I just simply said, if you're going to be thinking about working stink bids, we always say like trade location is the most important thing when it comes to trade ideas. This tool gives you a nice little visual representation of where the public's going to get absolutely screwed, of course, because they always chase and they always buy tops and sell bottoms. So if they happen to need to bring the market back down, they got a nice big fat liquidity pool that they can wash out right here. And let's call it, I don't know, 58,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. And the interesting thing about this is, of course, that is a reload zone. And if we do actually go and break these lows, then that actually implies a bearish market shift. That's that sort of ICT guy. And you don't want to be buying. So if we come down into this level and they liquidate them, of course, that's into reload zones. It's also things like Wyckoff checks. And there's probably moving averages, volume profile levels, gaps. It goes on and on and on, right? Trade location. So this isn't a bad idea, just throwing in some stink bids down in this area. And then if we actually do go and break these lows and close out, of course, all these guys are going to get absolutely destroyed. But then you probably don't even want to be in these. And so you probably, if we do close below this level, you probably just want to walk away. So that was a super cool illustration that Julian shared with the community last night. And it's as I said, a good trade is a good trade is a good trade. We should always start at trade location. So it really shouldn't surprise that if you do draw fibs off of this range, oh, gee whiz, they're going to line up basically the same levels. Let's see if I can, man, this is probably not a bad note to finish this free video off, and we'll head over to the after party. Oh, by the way, I'm doing another one of these videos just before I take off on vacation with Mr. Wall Street Silver. So I'm going to be doing that 12:30. So that's in about 3 hours or so with him as we head into sort of the weekend, sort of what to think about going forward. So if you have been watching those, as soon as he publishes it, I'll put it on the site and I'll also retweet it and all that kind of fun stuff. But those are kind of fun to do. Talk a little bit about the gold and silver market and ratios and all that kind of fun stuff. Okay, so as the breadth indicator had pointed out, like we said, and where's the I wonder where the best place to show you this is. I think. Oh God, I can never remember. Unfortunately, I've got a laptop out in the living room, and I do a lot of charts, and I post those charts on the site, and they're all on my laptop. So unfortunately, I'm on the big computer right now in the office here, and it's tough for me to find the references that I make off of the laptop. And I think this will probably help us here. All right. So remember we had talked about the 48 days and then the 21 days. God, that's quite remarkable. So indeed, 20 days roughly of a rally and then 41 day or 48 bars of consolidation. Then 20 days of rally and then 48 days of consolidation. Then 21 days in this particular case of rally. 48 days of consolidation here. I don't know. We'll see. As the breadth indicator had pointed out, they were throwing the baby out with the bathwater there in crypto the other day. So and this is a great tool. I mean, hell, you could have hunted little short-term long entries there and clipped the market for like 10% pretty easily, maybe even like 15%. I actually think that they've actually brought Bitcoin right back into a selling window. Why do I say that? Well, here's Mr. ICT. And I don't know whether we actually went and closed below this low. I think actually, if you see it on the futures markets, I think they did close this below this low. Yeah, you can see the futures markets. They really did boom. Oh, in your face. And what's really interesting about this, of course, most professionals, I think, are trading these futures now. Look at the rally today, and this is what I often, this is my interpretation of that Mr. ICT guy's setup. I really like to hunt. You get the market structure shift, which I think, and by all means, you can always reach out to him. Know whether that actually closed below that low or not. That's so close, eh? Jesus. Yeah, maybe we could call it that. Maybe not. That's a tough one. Big dump, huge volume, big momentum break. Breadth indicator goes insanely oversold. And so what ends up happening following? Big dead cat bounce straight up. What I was worried about is last night, I heard people in the TRI lounge, which really bothered me immensely because it's sort of like, well, why am I even bothering doing any of this? I heard people last night saying, with price right up here, hey, I'm going all in. This is the place to buy. This is where I want to go long. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, the worst part about this is actually if you drill down to like, say, a 30-minute chart, something a little lower time frame. I think this is actually the end of the move, not the beginning of the move. So as you saw, and of course I love my good old mountain man level. I sure missed jousting with Brandon. Actually, was kind of disappointed when I went back over to Top Step. Brandon's headed off to greener pastures, and usually that's what ends up happening. At some point, I'm sure my buddy here, Chris, who is now working with Nebraska, at some point he's going to turn around and go, I've had enough of this guy's nonsense. I'm just going to go trade my own account. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. Have you gotten to that point yet, Chris? Or are you still pretty happy with them? No comment. He's quiet.
I haven't gotten to that point yet, but yeah,
good.
we'll see when that happens. I can imagine it'll happen soon.
All right. So anyway, the point of the matter here is, you can see, if I go study after study after study, everything is saying Mountain Man. Of course, you know how much I love 61.8s. I mean, you can make the argument that is a top and a market structure breakdown level. It's not the best one. This was a nasty top. Remember how they did this? I was short. I had my stop at scratch and they went and stopped me out, the fuckers, and then they dumped the market. Typical. So really not a big surprise. That was on sort of the free portion of that trade. But counter trend rallies to 61.8. You can see we had Foggenbaum levels traded to. I've just totally, kind of free-handed this. So not exactly 100% accurate, but you get the idea, doink. And as well too, we had a W down here, which means we can do Foggenbaums off of this bottom. Mind you, this one was a little sloppy, so I'm not going to say this was the best study, but anyway, it is there. 2.618, 3.664, and we're kind of running out of time here. Thanks, Chris. Anyway, so you can see there's a whole bunch of reasons that maybe we better just cool our jets through this. And sure enough, you can see price is kind of backing off. Then remember I had said there a moment ago, if we looked at Julian's picture and we saw around 58 or so is probably liquidation level. So we throw on our reload zones, and what a surprise. I actually can consider buying this asset if price dumps all the way down into 54 to 52. And really that makes sense. Big fat round numbers. I think we got to go back and play with 50 G's again. Does that happen in the near future? I doubt it. It's probably going to take some time to do that. But just in the near term, notice there's these key lows in here. That kind of corresponds with Julian's liquidation levels down in this area. And, I would actually expect them to wash these lows and even maybe these lows for some cheap liquidity. And then, if I really did want to buy, I'd be very interested in hunting something like that down there. So we'll see how that plays out. Although I'm going on vacation, so usually what ends up happening is when I'm on vacation, Mr. Fink comes out and says something outlandish, and the damn market ratchets higher. So hopefully, for all of your sake, I'm 100% wrong, and this thing just keeps going straight up from here. But ironically enough, now one thing I did notice is if we look at, say, the lower time frame, things like hourly charts, and look at momentum, we didn't have a confirmed divergence. We did have potential, and I think this is still potential. So you can see it there, boobity boo. Lower highs in price, higher highs in price, lower highs in MACD. And if we go through this low, which means any kind of further weakness here, that divergence will confirm. We also had Willie get stupidly overbought. We have a rule around TRI. You do not buy when Willie is stupidly overbought. And sure enough, that was good, sage advice. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a sell just yet, although I do think that it's setting up. We'll see if this divergence does confirm. And if this divergence actually confirms, then this is like the three-step setup process. We have trade location. We're starting to see indicator confirmation. And then finally, if the indicators do actually confirm and this goes into divergence, then really at that point, we're just looking for some sort of M structure to frame the trade. I would actually prefer, if I was hunting a short, that this thing actually pop up and make a new high here, and then go and M out. And of course, that pop up would take us up into shorting windows, and maybe even paint like a triple divergence. You know how much I love those triple Ds. So is there an actual trade for me to do here right yet? No. Could this develop maybe over the next few days through the weekend, and maybe Monday, Tuesday, we come back? And keep in mind, like I said, the futures boys, I think they actually did have their level traded to earlier today. So could this mess around here or through the weekend, but you won't see that. And then maybe Sunday they roll it back over. Yeah, I could see that. And the interesting thing about this, folks, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. This is a V bottom. V bottoms like to be tested. You saw, of course, Julian's liquidation levels. Usually, my rule is candle body lows for trade location, in this case, buying. And I suppose, I mean, if they really could, I would love to see a rally all the way back up to the top of the channel here for trade location on the downside. If that is going to happen, though, I think that happens next week. And why? Today, right now, I think the market is parked, and especially into the New York close. I think the market is parked primarily because of this thing here, BITO. And really, we don't have a lot of time. I've already talked way too much here. Gave you like a Julian piece here today. Lots and lots of call options up top here. I don't think they want those to be filled. Didn't really see a hell of a lot of puts. So I'm not really too concerned about that. Today, what do I want to show you? You know what? Why don't we do this? We'll do this in the after party. The bottom line here is there is a lot of reason to look for a move back up into next Friday. So I would actually expect this to be somewhat soft here today. I think they've got the market exactly where they want it. Notice 4.669s are also up against that primary trend line. I mean, this is basically the down trend line. So into next Friday, I could definitely see some sort of push up top here. And like I said, in the after party, we'll go and look at the options on the BITO so you can understand what I'm seeing. But you can clearly see there are problems developing in getting too bullish here. You're asking for trouble. This is not a good place to be gambling with your hard-earned money, folks, really. If anything, I would even say that we're kind of in no man's land right now. Finish off this thought, same sort of thing. If we look at the altcoins, something like Ethereum, there's not really a hell of a lot going on here. Nothing has really changed in earnest. 13 EMA works as an excellent sort of, dead cat bounce kind of oscillation moving average. This is why I like using it. So you can see, not a big surprise if I was going to have some sort of short-term objective from this bounce. Remember, the crypto histograms went completely oversold. So we knew that there was going to be some sort of bounce in the market. I'd be looking for this 13 EMA. I don't know whether this market can close back above it. This candle right here today is an inside bar. And if we do finish the day like this, and keep in mind, the day's still pretty young. Who knows how this finishes? But if we do finish out like this, and this actually fires an inside bar failure in tomorrow's candle, well, that actually means we're heading right back down into the soup. So there's no reason for me to be bullish of this thing right now. And you can see we got our fun little demonstration trade, the free portion. Beautiful sell signal on this M top here. Take one off, half of the position off at 2 to 1s, throw your stop at scratch. I moved my stop recently to just above this high, lock in a little bit more, but I'm not in any hurry to do anything right now. And if you were, and one thing that really bothered me last night is I was kind of away yesterday. As I said, there was a fire in my building. So, I mean, there's a really crazy ass shit going on here locally. And as people have pointed out, maybe that's an omen, Brian, get the fuck out of China. It's a shit show, which I wouldn't disagree with. But anyway, what I'm seeing, and I couldn't believe it, is when I just pulled up crypto Twitter and everybody and their brother was like, okay, this is it. We're going straight to the moon, straight to the moon, straight to the moon. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, there's still way too much bullishness in this space. And this is not W's. I don't see any W's here. In fact, if we change this to a line chart, V bottoms need to be tested. There are no W's here. And if anything, this is a great analogy. You don't have any W's here. You get these monstrous dead cat bounces. And then, here come the M's again. And back down we go. So I don't see any reason to be overtly bullish here, folks. Having said that, you see the playground that we're in. In fact, actually, isn't that funny? On the laptop, I have it on here, but this I don't. But this is our playground right now on this silly ETH, and there is nothing for me to do here. And it'll be interesting to come back on vacation and see how this image looks like. I would not be surprised that we are all over this over the coming months here. So there could be substantial counter trend rallies back into resistance, which probably set up new shorting windows, reload zones, market structure, blah, blah, blah. And then because that's a V bottom, I do fully expect that at the very least is going to have to be tested at some point down the road. So there's your market state. If you were able to trade this thing and clip it, I don't think that this is the best vehicle to be using. If anything, probably maybe look at Solana. I think it had a pretty good rally, but why don't we leave that for the after party as well? Okay, why don't we leave that for the public grab broadcast? I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to be gone for the next couple weeks. So, make sure to reach out and interact with TRI CTO. I almost said his name, but I'm going to try and get into a habit of just not saying people's names publicly anymore. And Mr. CTO would like to be a bit more private. As well, I think I'm allowed to say Julian's name. I don't think he's averse to that. So they'll be running the show while I'm gone. And of course, we've got the whole team, Chris, Grim, Eddie's doing such a great job day trading. It's so fun to hang out with him in the mornings. Cole, maybe over the next couple of weeks, Cole might pop in and do a little video piece with you guys on the site. So we really interact, and if anything, use this next couple of weeks to try and get a feel for what maybe TRI might look like without Brian around 24/7, because I am getting up there, and I think I've been doing this for 10 years straight now. And I think it's time for me to slowly start dialing things back here now. So anyway, all right. So wish me luck on the road. Gonna have fun getting into trouble. We'll see if I end up face down in a ditch somewhere. Wish me luck. All right. Have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. We'll go hang out in the after party a bit with people. Talk a little bit maybe about. We were also going to do a key reversal screen. That's another awesome tool on the TRI site that is a part of the subscription package. Because Cole was even saying that he's seeing key reversals all over the place. So clearly, his decennial report seems to be suggesting that we might actually see the market rally for the next month or so. Heading into the September debates and eclipses and FOMC events and all that. All right. All the best and bye for now.